Recording has started now. Thank you all for attending the first Peoria County Auditor virtual town hall meeting. I look forward to hearing all your questions, and I will try to make this presentation as informative and entertaining as possible. Can't make any promises, but we'll try. So this is a little bit about myself. My name is Jessica Thomas. I'm your Peoria County Auditor. I have served in this role since 2018. I'm a native of Peoria. I attended Peoria Manual High School, graduating almost 20 years ago. I hold a bachelor's in science and accounting and a master's degree in business administration. I have a passion to serve our community, and I currently serve as the first vice president and legislative chair for the Illinois Association of County Auditors. So that's a few things about me. As we continue to let guests in, we have an agenda here for our town hall. We have two special guests on the line. I will introduce those special guests. They will tell a little bit about themselves, and then we will begin into the rest of the agenda for tonight. And again, I'm going to try to make this as informative as possible to highlight the overarching issues concerning the auditor's office. Again, if you have any questions or you need a deeper dive, feel free to contact my office. You can email or you can call. These are our special guests tonight. We have the Peoria County Auditor Attorney, Justin Penn, who's representing the county auditor in litigations that are currently going on, and the Winnebago County Auditor, Bill Crowley. So I will start first with the Peoria, with Justin, so he can tell a little bit about himself, and then we'll go to Bill and on with the rest of the program.
Thanks, Jessica. My name is Justin Penn. I'm an attorney. I practice in Peoria, Chicago, and LA. I grew up in Peoria, Illinois. I'm proud to say I get back there all the time. My mom and dad still live there. And it's an honor to be representing Jessica and the county auditor's office in the lawsuit against the county because it's an important lawsuit because the auditor, I think, is an important position. We'll talk more about that later, but that's who I am and that's my role here, coming to you from my living room here, just a couple hours north of you.
Okay, we'll go on to Bill Crowley, Winnebago County Auditor.
Hello there. My name is Bill Crowley. I guess you can see that from the picture. And I am the county auditor in Winnebago County. Just so you know, Winnebago County is basically Rockford. I have been actually in that office since 1991. I was hired in May of 91 as the chief deputy, and I worked as the chief deputy until 2008 when I was elected to my first term, and I'm in my fourth term. Through that period, there have been some interesting changes in county government, not so much statutorily, but just the way we do business because of the electronic age. And so in my view, the independence of a countywide elected auditor is really paramount to really making sure the taxpayers aren't taken for a ride on stuff. It's county government is very complicated. It's like a dragon with a bunch of heads, because there are a whole bunch of different elected officials that are elected countywide that have their own statutory authority. And the county auditor, an elected county auditor, has the ability to go in and take a look at what's going on in each one of those offices. So, and my background is, I'm a certified fraud examiner. We have, I think in my tenure, we have managed to put at least 8 people, given them, I didn't give them, but I did the audit work, county employees of various levels, 2 county elected officials, charged them with crimes, and they were convicted. So it's not like it doesn't happen, you hate for it to happen, and that's why you need an elected county auditor. So that's my pitch. I'm also a father of 6. My wife has more to do with that than I do. Grandfather of 10, great grandfather of 2. I have a dog and an elderly goldfish, and and I know you have the Peoria Rivermen there. I'm also in the Illinois Hockey Hall of Fame. So that's a little background on me.
Thank you so much, Bill. I learned something about you. Thank you for the introduction. So we will then proceed with the program, and we will go into a little bit of overview of the Peoria County Auditor's Office. The Auditor's Office is an independently elected office, and we stress independent because we answer only to the voters. We work with the county board, but we answer only to the voters. Elected auditor who reports directly to the taxpayers. Your voice regarding accountability and transparency. We are dedicated to ensuring that the county spending is in accordance with federal laws, regulations, state statutes, county ordinance, resolutions, and policies. We work as the internal audit function that pursues all activities on a daily basis, and that's very important. We promote accountability and transparency, promote achievement of organizational objectives in the operation, reporting, and compliance. We provide recommendations to the county regarding the achievement of effective and efficient operations, greater internal controls over reporting, compliance, overall good government processes. Sorry, still letting people in, so apologize. I'm the moderator and the host. We closely monitor all government spending to ensure that we follow the spirit of the Illinois statutes and Constitution. Here's a little bit of history of the office here in Peoria County. The Office of the Auditor was established by the state of Illinois in 1911 for counties 75,000 or more in population. Here in Peoria County, the Auditor's Office was established in 1916. In our over 100-year history, one thing has not changed, namely providing citizens with accountability, transparency regarding county government finances. Here's a little bit of history of our past auditors from 1916 through the auditor who predates me. My name, I need to add that to the list, but yes, these are the current, the former county auditors for Peoria County. And I'll go back to that because you'll see Carol Van Winkle was the first woman to be elected to county auditor when she served in her term. Okay, so this is important. So the county auditor has 2 duties primarily that by the statute. It's the accounting duties and the internal auditing duties. So one thing a lot of people are kind of confused on is the term of auditing in general, but what is internal versus external auditing? So internal auditing is an independent objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. It helps an organization to accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance processes. And so this is a chart that kind of tells the difference between, in Peoria, in the county auditor realm, the difference between the internal auditor versus the external auditor. So the internal auditor works for the county, for the voters, elected by the citizens. It can be a lay person, although a CIA, a CFE is recommended. Responsible to the citizens. Audits are conducted throughout the year on a regular basis. The external audit function is different. It works for an outside audit firm. It's hired by the county board or the county auditor in certain counties. It's a CPA, must direct all activities of the external auditors, audits and investigates the financial statements of the county, and conducts the single annual audit. That's important because the external auditor does not audit the day-to-day processes of the departments like the internal auditor does. They simply audit and investigates the financial statements for the county. And Bill, did you want to add anything in on that slide?
No, I think you're doing fine. To further confuse the issue, and I hate to do this, but there's a distinction in Illinois in what duties of auditors are in populations, in county populations of 275,000 above and under. And in Peoria's case, you have less than $275,000, so the or population. So the auditor is also the general accountant of the county. In my county, I am strictly an internal auditor, and by statute, we have a separate finance office. So I think that's the only thing that I would like to add to that.
Yes, and that's very important. So larger counties, by law, are able to separate the accounting and internal auditing function. And my guess, I would assume that the reason why the law was, and this is just my assumption, that the law was written in the way it was written in that way, is for counties that are underneath that threshold population. It could be a cost savings to taxpayers if the accounting and auditing duties remain with the county auditor versus creating a separate department and duplicating it when you're populating.
Can I just jump back in?
Mm-hmm.
When I first started in Winnebago in '91, we had, our population was under 275. So I have operated in an office where we essentially had two divisions. One was the accounting division and the other was the audit division. And the accounting division did all the accounting work, paid the bills, did the payroll, managed the general ledger. And then the audit division actually did what an internal auditor would do, and that's review the bills, approve purchase orders, and conduct internal departmental audits.
Absolutely. And that's the way the Office of the County Auditor should be operating here in Peoria County. So that's very important.
Let me jump in again. I hate to keep on doing this, but there are two counties that are not very far from Peoria County where that model, the model that you're espousing, works quite well. One is Sangamon County and the other is Rock Island County, where the auditor is the general accountant of the county, and they do internal audits, and they just sail along quite nicely. I mean, the auditor does their job, and the bills get paid, and things just roll along quite nicely. So it's not like this cannot be done. I'll shut up now for a while.
Thank you, Bill. No, all your insight is greatly appreciated because you've been around for a long time.
Thank you.
So we respect that. So we're going on again to tell the differences between the internal audit function and the external audit function. So the internal audit can issue their findings in any type of report format. It can be used to provide advice and other consulting assistance to employees, department heads, and elected officials. They examine issues related to county business practices and risks, whereas the external auditor must use specific formats for their audit opinion and management letter, and they are constrained from supporting an audit client too closely. And we saw a little bit of that if anybody's familiar with the Dixon, Illinois situation, that the external auditor cannot get too close to the client. Because they must remain objective, and examine the financial records and issue an opinion regarding the financial statements of the company. So that's the single audit, examining the financial statements. It's the overarching overview of how the organization operated throughout the year, not a detailed day-by-day audit. So then we'll go into so this is, I call it dismantling the auditor's office past and present efforts, because Peoria County Auditor's Office has not operated to the letter of the law as it should be, and it hasn't did that for a while now. So in 1991, then State's Attorney Kevin Lyons wrote the Attorney General for an official opinion on if the county board can use, and this is verbatim out of the opinion that he wrote, the Attorney General, if the county board can use its budgetary authority to circumvent the internal controls of the auditor over his or her office, whether a county administrator may delegate general accounting responsibilities to the county treasurer, and whether the county board may effectively abolish the office of the auditor by failing to appropriate sufficient funds to the staff the office. So the AG's response to this was essentially no to all the above. The AG also said that if they did such efforts, that it'll be a writ of mandamus. And so I'm probably going to tag you in here, Justin, if you could kind of explain to the people what a writ of mandamus was,
Yep.
and kind of in the capacity what the Attorney General told us.
Yep. Anytime Latin comes in, that's when I generally get asked to give an opinion. So a writ of mandamus is a special lawsuit. And what it says is it asks the court to require a government official, in this case, a county official, to do something that they're legally obligated to do that they refuse to do. So the more newsworthy nationally that you might have heard of this is, let's say that there's a county somewhere where an elected official gets elected and the county clerk disagrees with them on a politically hot issue like abortion or something like that. And they say, I'm taking a moral stance. I will not sign the document that certifies the election. I refuse. And what you would do is you'd file a mandamus case that says, here's the law. The law says that the election board of electors or the county clerk has to endorse whoever has to sign the document that appoints the person that got the most votes. If they refuse to do it, the court just says, yep, that's the law. You have to do it. That's not effectively, that's exactly what this lawsuit is. It says the law is that Jessica, that there's a county auditor, in this case, it's Jessica. The law says these are the duties that are assigned to them. We have the state's attorney opinion that says they cannot do these three things, which is budget out. They have to have a minimum required budget reasonable to do their job. They need employees. They cannot effectively abolish the auditor by failing to appropriate sufficient funds. They can't delegate the authority or the duties away. And they've done all, we say, they have done all those things. So the writ, the mandamus, is make them correct it. So it's not sign a document in the example I gave. In this case, it is make them correct it. And so they have to appropriately fund the office, appropriately staff the office, let the auditor do her, or in other instances, his duties, give them access to the documents that they need to do their duties. So that's essentially what a writ is. That's what our writ is about. Jessica, does that answer what you wanted me to address?
Yes, that answers exactly what it is. And also, and again, the AG's opinion from 1991 is available to the public. It's a public document. If someone would like to read it, it's a short read, about 6 or 7 pages. You can contact my office. I'll send it to you so you can read
Jessica,
it.
that was what I was going to say. I was just going to comment on that. This thing is so readable. It is so easy to understand. I highly recommend anybody that's interested to just read it. And then you can compare it to your lawsuit, which is really readable and easy to understand. So.
Cool beans. So then we'll continue on. So that happened in 91. So 91, the county was advised by the AG's office not to do what they wanted to do. And that was transfer duties from the auditor's office to the treasurer's office and effectively abolish the office by not funding it, by using this budgetary authority not to fund the office. So between then and 2007, the duties were in the treasurer's office. So the accounting function of the auditor's office was taking place in the county treasurer's office. So in 2007, the county decided to create a finance department. So they're like, okay, we're going to take the duties of the auditor that's been in the treasurer's office, and we're going to put that in, we're going to create an office with the duties of the auditor's duties, essentially, that was in the treasurer's office and in other departments, and create a finance department. Instead of giving the duties back to the auditor, we're going to create a department that's underneath the authority of the county administration that answers to the board. So in 2007, September 13th, the county board voted on the creation of the finance department. And again, all these documents can be found on the county's agendas. You look at the date, you'll find the document. So this office was created to duplicate the state mandated duties of the auditor's office, including accounting, purchasing, financial reporting, fixed asset management, and audit. Currently, this duplicated office is costing taxpayers over $600,000, closer to $700,000. And this is an increase of over $249,000 over last year. So this duplication of duties that's being funded outside the law, essentially, is costing taxpayers a lot of money. So after 2007, the finance office, is created with the auditing duties of the accounting and some auditing duties of the auditor's office. The auditor's office was left with minimal auditing duties and budget. Also, the county administrative ran IT department also took over the control of the accounting systems. And so according to our Illinois state statute, the law says that the auditor shall implement and run pretty much essentially the accounting duties and software for the county. But this was transferred to the county IT department, and they had administrative control over the accounting system since then. Former auditor Carol Van Winkle struggled to get the proper budget from the board effectively to carry out her duties. She ran for re-election in November 2016, but in December, 1 month after winning her re-election bid, she stepped down in an effort to save her chief deputy. She's like, hey, I retired once, I can retire again. I really feel like my chief deputy is more than able to carry out the duties, and I don't want her to lose her job because they're trying to cut the budget again. And so she effectively stepped down to appoint her chief deputy to replace her, but that didn't happen. The county board in 2017 appointed Kent Rotherham, and Kent's one of his tasks was to fire that chief deputy, and he did, and that left the office with one employee, and Kent. And then that brings us to November 2017. They proposed a referendum to be on the March 2018 primary ballot to eliminate the auditor's office. March 2018, the referendum hits the ballot, and this is the language that it said. Shall the elected office of the Peoria County Auditor be eliminated effective December 1, 2018, and replaced with a professional county auditor qualified and appointed by the board with a 5-year term during which such appointed county auditor can only be removed from office for malfeasance or official misconduct. That referendum was written by the county board, and it was really confusing because it asked two questions. It asked, hey, shall we eliminate the office? Shall we replace it with another person? And so when voters went to the ballot, they were quite confused. They were quite confused on what this referendum really was asking. But it made it to the ballot. Voters turned out in record number for a primary election in a midterm year, and they elected to save the county auditor's office. So they voted no, and they rejected this referendum. The board overwhelmingly said it wanted just to know the will of the voters when they put this on the ballot. So the referendum to eliminate the office was voted down by the citizens of Peoria County, thus providing the input the board desired, that the people wanted to keep the office. So although the voters elected to keep the office of county auditor in 2018, the board kept working to undermine this decision by I'm still letting people in, by using their budgetary authority and other measures to circumvent the internal controls of the auditor. So in December 2018, I take office. And so this is all background that's really good to know, because this didn't start with me. These issues with Peoria County Auditor's Office predates me. It goes all the way back to 1991. And back then I was like 6. So, well, not 6. I was 5. So it predates me. So in December 2018, I take office. In March 2019, the auditor's budget was significantly gutted from the year prior. So it only left the auditor with 1 full-time employee and $375 to operate the office for the year. So in March of that year, 2019, I requested additional funding. In April of that year, we were granted over $68,000 by the board, and this went to hire an additional full-time employee, and then the remainder of the money went to their health insurance and operations for the office. In spring 2019, we successfully protected the office at the state level from attempts to changing the law regarding the auditor's office. So this battle is not just local. Our association, and Bill could probably attest to this, that we have been fighting in the state to protect the law as it regards to the auditor's office from being changed in any way, so we can still carry out our duties in the spirit of the law and the way of the law intended. So when I came on, spring 2019 was my first time actually getting into the fight to protect the office at the state level, attending state committee meetings to educate elected legislators about the importance of the auditor's office.
Jessica, can I make one point?
Mm-hmm.
And you or Bill would be in a better position, but it occurs to me, and it might be later in your presentation, I think there are 21 counties that are required to have an auditor, and I believe 17 of them have an auditor, and I think 2 of them are deciding whether, like 2 of them just rolled into the larger size where they're mandated to have one, and they're figuring out who it's going to be. So I just want to make the point, the vast majority of counties that are required to have an auditor have an auditor. They don't.
Correct.
The referendum is the exception, not the rule, by a mile.
Correct. And that's important too, because as you see, certain associations that are supported by, or advocating on behalf of certain county boards to try to change the law regarding the auditor's office, there's 102 counties in Peoria, in Illinois. The county auditors only occupy 17 of those counties. So for things to go in front of the state level to try to change a small portion of the state, is really something that people should take note to, because this is just the way that certain county board members try to take to circumvent the will of the people, is by going to the state legislator to try to change the law in regards to abiding by it. So in May 2020, the budget gets cut again for the county auditor's office. This is during COVID. All departments had to take a 10% mid-year cut, which was significant because it was a mid-year cut. We were already in the process of using our budget for the year, and we had to take a 10% cut. This cut, because of this cut, I had to furlough both of my staff members for 1 month each. So the office was operating on minimal staff because of that budget cut, so we could stay on budget. So in February 2021, county administration withhold information about a staff retirement that left the office severely short-staffed with no notice. And because of this, we couldn't hire people until middle of the year. Spring 2021, we fought for a second time to protect the office in the state. This time we held town halls with legislators to educate them on the importance of the office and why we need to protect the language of the law, because there are multiple lawsuits at that time going on in different counties that were being fought to protect the law. So we successfully defended the auditor's statute in spring 2021 in the state capitol.
Hey, Jessica, can I jump in for just a second here?
Sure.
I don't think it's fair to give the impression that anywhere there's an auditor's office, there's a whole lot of commotion going on.
Oh yeah, no, not at all.
Because in many of the counties, like in my county, I get along very well with the county board, with the county board chairman, and with the other elected officials, and we all are kind of work together for a common goal. And in many of the other counties, it's really the same way. But when the what hits the fan in a county regarding the county auditor, it really does, and it becomes almost all consuming in some cases. And I can't explain why. It just seems once things kind of get off track, they really just get off track. So I think it's just to get back to my point. Even though there's been some stuff about auditors in most of the counties that have auditors, things are just going fine, and you really don't hear much of anything. Other than when we find something that's really juicy. Like in my county, we just convicted our coroner of doing all sorts of stuff. Misuse of a credit card and stealing from the dead. And my office was involved, unfortunately, in some of that. So not on the wrong side of it, on the right side of it. So we still need to be ever vigilant whenever we can. So I just wanted to get that in there.
Absolutely. And when and we had similar issues here in Peoria County, but getting back to that, when I said it was a couple counties, namely Kankakee and Tazewell County, were involved in lawsuits. And so changing the language of the law while those two counties were currently in litigation was just an attempt, in my opinion, to circumvent that litigation process by changing the law in the state. But we successfully defended that in spring 2021. So then in May, June 2021, I was able to hire 2 part-time staff members. These members eventually got moved up to full-time status as the budget allowed. And we worked on getting staff fully trained. We were excited. We were good. We were rolling. Like, we were ready to hit 2022 like on fire. My staff was getting fully trained. We were working on updating our website and getting out there in the public. We have began to do Meet the Auditor events in 2019, and we had to stop in 2020 due to COVID, and 2021 due to COVID and staff changes. But we were going to get back to it in 2022. But like Bill said, when the ish hits the fan, it hits the fan. So after that, August 30th, 2021, we were notified by email along with the rest of the county that that our pre-audit and our audits with the claims against the county that process was changing. The county administrator sent that out without consulting my office, and he directed all departments to stop sending documents to my office. My staff lost access to perform essential duties in the accounting system. The checks were no longer being brought to the auditor's office for final review and recommendation for payment. The staff focused their efforts on revamping the website, departmental audits, and vendor database management. So they were still working, doing other tasks, but the major bulk of their duties were taken away. October 2021, the board voted to eliminate the budget line for my staff and operational budget for them. The auditor's office, we filed a lawsuit in November 2021. And then in the meeting, November 30th, 2021, in the county executive board meeting, the county board had the finance office copy the auditor's report and give it as their own. And then they refused to let the auditor's office representative, which was Assistant Auditor Lori, speak at that meeting. So that was the last meeting that the report was given. So then we come to January 2022. The office started with no staff. The county auditor's office is the only elected office with no staff. In June 2022, the state's attorney office, I believe that's June. Justin, you can click in if you want to. Where was that in June that we were determined that the state's attorney got removed from the case?
I believe that's right. Yeah, it might have been May, but yeah, I believe it was June.
Okay. So in July, Refusing to listen to the will of the voters and respecting the 2018 referendum decision, the executive board presents a second referendum to eliminate the auditor's office. And here's the language that they proposed. Shall Peoria County eliminate the internal office of the county auditor when the county already has an external auditor as required by state law? This will be a cost savings of approximately $150,000 annually. That I didn't quite understand because I don't know what goes into that $150,000 number, because the auditor's budget is currently at $112,750 for 2022. So really don't know how they calculated that savings. But then we progress into this month of this year. The board meeting is tomorrow. They have slightly changed the referendum language to as follows. Shall Peoria County eliminate the office of the internal county auditor effective December 1, 2024, because Peoria County has an external auditor as required by state law. As explained earlier, external auditing and internal auditing are not interchangeable functions. They serve in different capacities. For example, if anyone watched All the Queen's Horses, if you haven't, please do. It's a great documentary on Dixon, Illinois situation, or Dixon, Illinois had an external auditor, but their comptroller, Rita, was still able to steal over $54 million in over a 20-year period from the town, not having proper internal controls or internal audit function. And so, Bill, did you want to input anything else about the difference between internal and external auditing?
Sure, but first, I had an interesting situation with the Rita Crunwell stuff, and that is one of my friends that's an FBI agent and one of the few guys that in the FBI, at least around here, that is good in financial crimes, was one of the ones working on the Rita Crunwell case. And another one of my friends was her legal representative. And so I had a kind of a bird's eye view after the fact of what all went on with the Rita Crunwell stuff and how it really got off the rails. But back to your thoughts about internal and external. The outside auditors, all they're really doing is attesting to the fact that your financial statements are stated correctly and that the public can rely on the document that you produce, which I think it's still your CAFR. They don't go into, they're not doing cash counts. They're not doing payroll audits. They'll do some segregation of duties, maybe internal control stuff a little bit, but nothing like an internal auditor would do. They can overlook, 25 computers could be missing, and honestly, it wouldn't affect the financials, and they wouldn't even make a note of it. So it really is a completely different ball of wax. And in my case, we work very well with our external auditors, and they rely on my internal audits, my review of internal controls, my review of, we do cash audits, go around and just show up unannounced and want to count the cash drawer at different locations. We do all sorts of stuff. We do inventory control. We'll pick, maybe 5, 6, 8 items that the department has purchased over the last 2 or 3 years and just show up and want to see them. An external auditor is not going to do that. And it's not that there's nothing bad about what they do. That's just not what they're supposed to do. And as a county auditor, I can work with the different departments. Keep in mind, most of the folks that work in the various departments are not high-level financial people. They're just somebody that we hired off, that they're well-meaning, but they're not really trained. and we have to train them, and we have to continually train people because at a lot of these jobs there's a continual turnover. So having a internal auditor that the department head can call up and say, you know, I'm having a problem here, can you come look at this? We can do that. The outside auditors aren't doing anything like that, and that's what my department's done. And you know, we have a really good relationship with people. A few of them don't like it when we show up, but that's just the way it goes, you know. So I hope that helps at least explain a little bit about what we do in internal auditing.
Thank you, Bill. And so we will keep going. And like I said, questions will be at the end, actually, probably at 2 slides after this. We will have questions. At that time, your mic, you raise your hand, your mic will be enabled, and then you'll unmute yourself, ask your question, and mute your mic back again. So we're going to turn it over to Justin, and Justin's going to give us an update on the current litigation.
Yeah, so you've given all the background and you've done a really nice job of that. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on the background as to how we got to the writ of mandamus, which is what I explained to you, which is what I explained earlier as to what it is. So in the example I gave, as you can imagine, if you had somebody, a mandamus normally moves really fast because you have somebody who's won an election and somebody refuses to do it. They're generally not that complicated. This one, admittedly, is a little more complicated. However, it's been a real challenge to get to where we are because the county has fought it really, really hard, as is their right to do. I'm not disparaging the county for having chosen to litigate. I will say they've made it, I think, a lot more complicated than it needs to. And I'll just say the reasons why. They repeatedly opposed Jessica getting her own attorney, which in this situation, the county auditor's office had to have its own attorney because the state's attorney represents the county auditor, and the state's attorney in this, generally speaking, represents the county auditor. In this instance, the state's attorney had given Jessica, the county auditor, advice and had made public statements and had advocated against the current client, the auditor's office, as well as learning information about the current case. So that meant that one, Jessica and the county auditor's office was entitled to its own independent lawyer. That's me. And two, the state's attorney is disqualified from representing, from advocating against the county auditor's office because it is both the current client of the state's attorney and because they represented Jessica and this office in this dispute. So that took months and months to sort out and a lot of work and a lot of appearances in court. Now the court has agreed and has said both that the county auditor gets its own attorney, that's me, and that the county auditor isn't forced to defend itself against an attorney that represented it. So now the state's attorney is off. And now the county has hired a law firm up in Chicago to represent it. And we're just now getting to the point where we're starting to talk about how we're going to resolve the case. They can, as they have, file a motion to dismiss the case. The county did file one previously. I think their new attorneys might not be pursuing that because for a number of reasons, you'd have to ask them, but probably because it wasn't very meritorious, I would assume. Although they could, we'll see. We'll know that in the next couple weeks. And as all of this plays out, as you can imagine, the referendum will play into, well, arguably could play into what everyone decides to do here. So it's important. Jessica, anything I didn't touch on in the procedural history of this case?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
That's right.
No, not at this time. I think that was good enough for me. But as always, the public is allowed to ask questions, so we'll go to that at the end.
And if they have any. We should say, Jessica, all this is happening in open court. People can come to court. People do come to court. You've got a lot of supporters that are coming. People that are interested are coming. So come if you want to and listen to what's said. It's interesting to me, but I'm a legal nerd.
When is the next court hearing? Could you let?
I will find that out. I knew you were going to ask that, and I have this up on my screen, so I can't find it. But let me look, and I'll find it out.
Okay. All right. And so we'll continue on. So what the elimination of the auditor's office means for you. So I create this little handy dandy organizational chart of the duties as prescribed by the law that the auditor should have. And so this is the ideal organizational chart for the auditor's office. If I had all the resources and the duties back. So currently, the Peoria County Auditor works for the voters of Peoria County, making the office independent of the political pressures of the board and other departments. This is a legally mandated office for the county of our population. With this current structure, the voters have the greatest power over the government fiscal management. If the voters decide to give up this power, these duties will then change from the auditor answering directly to the voters to the audit function being with the accounting duties in the finance office, answering directly to the county administrator, who is appointed by the county board. So the voters will forego their direct power in over the independent audit function and accounting function.
Can I jump in? Can I jump
Yep.
in here for a minute?
Yep.
One of the big advantages of an elected county auditor in the statute, and I can't quote you exactly where it is, in the statute, we have the authority to go into any office in the county. Now, the courts and maybe the judicial stuff might be somewhat off limits, but I have a good relationship with all those folks, so they let us go in and audit. But I can go to the sheriff's department, I can go to the county clerk's office, I can go to any other elected official and in the regular departments. Once you do not have an elected auditor, it appears to me that the elected officials, because they have a right to operate their office and have sole control over the way their office is operated, they don't have to let the finance people come in and audit them at all. There's no statutory authority that allows them to do that. So basically, you're cutting the ability to scrutinize departments in half by getting rid of your county auditor. I think that's significant.
That is significant, and that's a great point. I didn't think about it from the legal aspect of what that would mean.
Well, that's not a legal aspect. This guy, Justin is the legal guy here. So.
Well, from the statutory aspect of what guards the legal entity of other elected offices and their rights to their internal controls as well. So that's a good point. So then we'll go to the fraud triangle. The fraud triangle is a very important theory. The theory of the fraud triangle is that in order for fraud to occur, and this is not like it happens this way all the time, but this is a theory. In order for fraud to occur, 3 factors must be present. These factors are pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. And so eliminating the elected county auditor's office will open the county up to a vast opportunity. Whereas you won't have that internal audit function that will do the day-to-day internal controls and processes and operations audit. It will open the county up to a great opportunity for where fraud could occur. And that could cost taxpayers thousands of dollars. So underneath this new referendum that the county is proposing, unlike they did in 2017 and 2018, they're not proposing having that office be appointed. They're proposing eliminating the county auditor and the county internal audit function completely. So that is very important. So these are important meeting dates. And so we will go to questions, because it's telling me I have 5 minutes left, and I don't understand why. I thought we were had more time than that. So, but if we do get kicked off of here, which I hope we don't, if we do get kicked off of here, the link is the same. Just click the link and we'll come right back to answer all the questions. The next county board meeting is tomorrow at 6 p.m. And the election will be Tuesday, November 8th. So we'll go to questions. If anyone has questions, please use the raise your hand tool. Your mic will be enabled. And then you'll need to unmute yourself. Please turn your camera on so we can see you. We would like to see you. That's not mandatory, but we would like to see yourself, and where in Peoria County you reside. Please keep the question brief so that we can answer and move on to the next question in a timely manner. And as you ask your question, please mute your mic. So any questions? I'm looking through the list. I don't see any hands raised. So that means we probably did a really good job on answering questions as we went along. And I'll go back to the next screen with the dates so you guys can still see that.
It's either that or we just bored them to death.
Well, I hope not. I hope it was informational.
You know, it's all it's exciting to us, but you know, hope not. Come on, folks, ask a question.
Yes, please ask a question. And this presentation has been recorded, so like you can always go back and look at it. We'll try to get it uploaded to our page, our social media pages. But yeah, please ask a question. Don't currently see any hands being raised. Oh, wait, I see a hand raised. Hold on. Let me go back. Okay, so we have a hand raised. I'm allowing you mic access, and you just need to unmute yourself.
This is Zach Getrich of Agitation Rising. Can you tell us which politicians are in the sunken place and which are not?
By sunken place, what do you mean by that?
I mean, who is for this and who is against it?
Okay. So currently right now in the executive committee meeting, we only had 2 people vote against it and 11 county board members vote for it. Those 2 people who voted against it was Rob Renault and Brandy Bryant. And the rest of the county board voted in the affirmative to put this on the ballot again, to put the referendum on the ballot again.
And it'll be official tomorrow.
Yes, they'll be voting on it tomorrow. There's 18 board members. So if you do want to get in contact with your county board and let them know that you're against this, you can reach out to them, or you can show up at the meeting. There's public comments available at the meeting. Hopefully that answered that question. Any more hands?
Jessica, just in case we do get kicked off, I wanted to set, you asked me when the next court date was.
Yes.
It's September 26th at 2:00.
Okay, thank you.
And
September 26th.
It's in front of Judge Mack, which is up on the 2nd floor. And you just go find Judge Mack.
Cool beans. So I have unmuted 2 mics, Byron and Natalie, and Natalie Fee and Natalie Garcia. So we will go in order first, Byron first. So Byron, please unmute your mic and speak.
Asking about the language of the referendum and that the requirement is this a neutral question in Justin's opinion? I don't know if he has any experience at it or not.
I think your question was, is it a neutral question? Is that right, Byron?
Yes.
So let me say, big disclaimer. I don't do election law. My understanding, which is limited of election law, is that a referendum has to be self-contained. So sort of self-actualizing or self-executing. I guess self-executing, not self-actualizing. self-executing. So it has to be complete in and of itself. I really don't know if this one is, because as Jessica pointed out, that confusion over the external, internal, it's tough to write a referendum question that's clear if you're trying to influence people. And I don't know, I'll leave to everyone else to judge whether or not they're trying to influence, whether or not there's any influence here, but it seems to tell one version of events. And I think Jessica would say it might not tell her version of events. And I think that's potentially problematic. I'm sorry to be so squishy on it. I try to give actual answers and not lawyerly ones, but I really don't. I don't practice in this area, and I don't want to give you the wrong advice. I will say it's a very good question that someone could pose to the county. That's a great question. I'd be interested in what they would say. I don't know, Jessica, is it clear to you?
Jessica, you said earlier that they technically changed the language again. So what is what they're going to be voting on tomorrow?
So I'm from the agenda that I have read for tomorrow, I believe the language that they will be voting on tomorrow is on the screen, and that shall Peoria County eliminate the office of internal auditor effective December 1, 2024, because Peoria County has an external auditor as required by state law.
Yeah, and I mean, it begs the question, I've done some work with survey experts, and they would have a field day with that, because they would say, well, what if I think the county should eliminate the position for another reason? Or what if I didn't know that Peoria County, I don't know what an external auditor is. I mean, there are challenges to that, but I really don't know if it's sufficient to pass legal muster.
Okay, so we'll go on to Natalie Fee. Natalie Fee, if you could unmute your mic, and all the other guests, please make sure your mics are muted.
Hello, my name is Natalie Fee. I'm a member of Peoria DSA, and I'm actually an auditor with 10 years of experience in the private sector. My question is, are there any more reports available from the auditor's office that are available to the public? And has the board responded to any of your audits with remediation actions?
That's a great question, Natalie. All the reports, not all, I'm still in the process of updating our website. We created our website in fall 2021, and then I lost my staff. So all the reports up to that were able to upload to this point are uploaded on there. And as far as the audit reports that were given to the board, they really don't do anything with them. Like, we've had a situation where a current elected official, misused their procurement card. There was no action to that. We had a situation where, again, the elected officials can utilize their budget however they deem necessary. But it was a department who got appropriations for a specific reason, but used it for a different reason. And that's, that's kind of up to them, but it was kind of a point that we did an audit on that they said they were going to do one thing and did something totally completely different with the additional appropriations that they requested. And nothing was seen of that. Also, there was issues where it's been multiple issues and multiple things that have been brought to the board's attention, and they have not seen the light of day at any board meeting. Or any action from it. And that was the reason, one of the real reasons why we decided to get our own website, so we can update and put the reports up there so people could actually see what we were doing. So hopefully that answers your question, Natalie. And so then we'll go to Natalie Garcia. You can unmute your mic and begin speaking.
Can the board do anything to eliminate the office before we vote on it?
No.
Anything further than they've done?
No. The referendum is their only legal course of action to abolish the office. They have to take it to the people, and the people have to say, yes, we want to get rid of this office. and because this power is in a statute that is in the Illinois state law, so they can't go around it without going through the people. But they have essentially gutted the office to the point where it's minimally operating because of the budgetary cuts that they have made. So essentially, they have effectively rendered this office almost ineffective with the cuts that they have made and the duties that they have taken away. But legally, they can't do that without going to the people with the referendum. And I hope I answered that. Justin or Bill, you can jump in, but I think I answered that properly.
Yep, okay by me.
Okay, so go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say I did have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
If the citizens just voted on this in 2018 and the board's unwilling to accept this, how many more times can they legally make us vote on it?
Good question. They can bring this up however many times they want to. Now, is it a good use of county resources? Because board members are paid. So each time you see them every month, they're paid. So is this a good use of their time and their effort? And is this a good use of county resources to put forth this referendum? And, in some referendums, like with the abolishing the sale of the county nursing home, they took out billboard ads. So if they do the same for this, is it really use the resources of the tax dollars to pay for billboard ads, to market to the people, to get an answer for a question that was just answered 4 years ago, but it wasn't sufficient? So I don't know how many times they're going to keep bringing this forward. I really thought after 2018 that would be the last time, and we could move on and restore the duties, restore the office, and really get to the real work of the office, but that didn't happen. Okay, Natalie Fee, you have another question. Just unmute your mic.
Yes, I have a question about the 2023 budget. Have they issued any proposed numbers for that for your office for 2023 or additional cuts for next year?
They have not. And they pretty much cut the office to the bare minimum they can without taking it to a referendum to eliminate the office. So I don't foresee any more cuts past the $112,000 that's currently in our budget. But I did propose a budget. Budget process is just getting started. So I proposed that my budget be reset back to the 2021 mark, so I can at least regain those 3 employees that I lost, so we can start getting the office back up and running. And not necessarily, I probably won't get those 3 employees back that I've already trained, which is painful and I've already invested in. So that will be requiring hiring 3 new people, training 3 new people, and trying to work and get the office back to the level at least of that it was in 2021. So that was my request. I don't know if they're going to recommend that to the board. So that's where we're at right now. Did that answer your question? I hope it did.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? I don't really see any more hands raised, and it actually didn't kick us off, so that's great. Okay, Byron, you have a question? Please unmute your mic.
Okay, so how many employees work on auditing and finance, and is it still the same number of employees this year as compared to last year, say?
So currently, I don't really know that answer. I know that in November 2021, Julia Cisa said at the November meeting that her and Randy was doing the auditing at that time. And so that would mean that it was 2 people. And then I also know that it's a couple other staff members that have updated their LinkedIn profiles to say that they're doing auditing as well. So as it stands, it's probably anywhere between 3 or 4 people up there that they said that they're doing the auditing.
It's okay if I ask one more question?
Sure.
As far as I noticed in court documents, that there seems to be a dispute if there is, as far as if the county's a co-employer or not. This is probably more a question for Justin. If the county is a co-employer, because my understanding is they are not, and yet the state's attorney is claiming that they are. I hope that makes sense.
It doesn't. So co-employer for whom?
So I'll give the
Well,
background.
Yeah.
I'll give the background. So on that question, last year, there was a situation in the office where the county administrator was trying to give my employees directives on what to do.
Right.
And so, and I was telling them that was violating internal controls over my office and staff. And they were trying to say that they could fire, they could terminate, they could discipline the staff that's in my office without my authority. And so they are saying that in the collective bargaining agreement, it mentions that the county is a co-employer, which the collective bargaining agreement does not say that. But it just says that we're all collective employers of these union employees. And so the county took that as that they were co-employers. And so with co-employers, they had the authority to hire, fire, and discipline the staff in an elected person's office without that elected person's authority. So I guess Byron's question is that legal?
Yeah, and I'm sorry to say I don't know the answer to that. I do know the issue you're talking about. The legal answer is probably that it depends, and I hate to say that, but that's probably the answer. Is that in some instances it would be okay. I think the Illinois Attorney General opinion from Roland Burris makes very, very clear that what you cannot do is take otherwise lawful steps, which in the aggregate have the effect of eliminating the audit or the auditor or eliminating their ability to do their job. So I would argue, and I think we are arguing, not I think, I will say definitively, we are arguing moves like that are what effectively eliminated the ability to do the job. And so it's not lawful for them to do that. It's not to say they can't ever do it. It's just in this instance, the way they did it, it was not lawful.
Can you just imagine what would happen if they did the same thing in the sheriff's office or the state's attorney's office?
Or the state's attorney's office. That's what I said, Bill.
They'd be flipping out.
Absolutely. They'd be going bonkers over that.
And so, Bill, does that operate like that in your county where the county administration is co-employers to elected officials?
I don't know the legalities of that, but no one has ever tried, to the best of my knowledge. I mean, they leave the electeds alone. We are in our fiefdoms. And, I always tell, and I even say this to county board members, at budget time, give me my money and go away. I will run my department. And I don't mean that in a nasty way, but I'm just saying, and all the other department heads, the taxpayers, the voters have elected us to do a job.
That's what I was going to say, Bill.
We are going to do that job to the best of our ability. If at the end of our term, if the taxpayers think we're doing a crummy job, they're going to boot us out of office and elect somebody else.
Right.
I mean, that's the you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that authority is completely up to the voters.
Yeah. You have to go present yourself to the voters in our case, it's every 4 years. And you accept the will of the voters.
Yep. And so you never had any issue with county administration trying to discipline your staff?
No, never.
Okay.
It's not on the radar screen. They got enough trouble with all the people that are directly working for them. You know, I
Okay.
mean, we got a nursing home, a highway department, animal services, a health department, building and building maintenance people, a building department.
Yeah, we
I
have
mean, that,
26 departments too, but they still
yeah.
find time some
Well,
type of way.
well, they and maybe I'm in a unique situation, but no, we never have had anything like that.
Okay. So Byron, did that answer your question before I move on to other questions?
Yeah, you answer my question. I'll see if anyone asks any of my other questions.
Okay. So we'll move on to Kristen. Kristen, please unmute your mic.
Hi, Jessica.
Hello.
I have a question. So if this passes through a vote for when election times comes up and the constituents decide that they want to keep the auditor's office, what will stop the county board from continually defunding your office?
Nothing will. They have the county board's authority by statute, by law, is they have the budgetary authority. So they have the authority to set budgets for all the elected officials and all the departments with the county resources. That's their sole authority, it's budgetary authority. So the only thing that could stop them is in the statute. It does say that they have to fund the office properly enough to carry out the duties as prescribed by the statute. That is not happening currently, and that's the premise for the lawsuit.
So who determines that, if it's being done properly or not? Like that your office could run properly with the funds that they have or not? It's up to their discretion?
It is up to their discretion. So usually what the county board does is they take the recommendations from the elected official of what they're needed for their budget to carry out their duties, and they either grant them that budget. As you can see, if you follow Peoria County, typically, like let's use the sheriff. Typically, when the sheriff asks for a budget, they not only get that budget, but a lot of times the recommended budget is more than they asked for. Right. And the same for the state's attorney's office. They either get what they asked for or they get more. So that's really up to the county board. But if I'm telling them like, look, hey, this is the way I need this office structure to carry out the duties as prescribed by the statute, this is what I need. Most of the time they honor that. And I don't know if that, Bill, does that work the same way in your county? Like, usually you guys tell them what you need and typically they're good on honoring what you request. Bill, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, say that again.
So is that typically how it works, the budget process in your county? Like the elected officials request what they would like, and then the board recommends that they get either what they request or somewhere close to it to carry out the...
It would be a negotiated process.
Okay.
And keep in mind, there's 102 sheriffs in the state of Illinois, and 102 sheriffs think that all the money belongs to them. That's just the life in sheriffdom, I guess. But no, we have gone through periods where we laid people off where we had more money, less money, we had to pinch pennies, we had to issue bonds to cover stuff, and it's all a big negotiated process. And you try to be respectful of the other office holders, and you try to get you try to get a little padding, but you understand in the end we're all in the game together. We're all pulling on this. We're all on the same team, and the other thing is in my office. My office is a drop in the bucket. I mean, we're $200 and some million a year operation, and I'm maybe $250,000. I mean, that's probably a sheriff's deputy and a half.
Right.
If you really start to break that down.
So Jessica, I want to make one point
Mhm.
to make it clear. The question was, who decides what the appropriate budget is? And you are all answering it correctly, that it's the county. But the county can't say the office gets $1 or $100. The county has to appropriate a sufficient amount. And I would have answered the question of who decides. I would say this lawsuit is going to determine whether or not they're giving enough money. And if
Correct.
the judge, that's what this lawsuit is about. So I don't want to give the impression that if the referendum fails, it's kind of pointless because the county can then just say, all right, well, we'll just give Jessica $1,000 and, then she can't do her job. That's what the lawsuit's about, is that the Illinois statute says this position exists and has to exist, and they have to fund it properly.
Correct.
So I don't want to give the impression that it's over if they just say, nah, we'll just give her $10.
Correct. And so, yeah, so thank you, Justin. So that is what the lawsuit is about, is that the office needs to be funded properly. And these are the duties of the office. And a good example of them funding an office properly, or probably even to an extreme, is we'll go back to the county finance department. The county finance department is budgeted this year at $682,215. So that is the county finance department. Like I said, it was an increase of over $249,000. The county finance essentially has most of the auditor's duties. So one could argue is that if they're going to fund the duplicative office at that rate, they should then extend that same rate to the office of the auditor. I don't foresee us needing that much money to operate our duties, but that's currently what the finance office is funded at. Did that answer your question, Kristen? Or did you need any clarity?
Thanks, Jessica. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it.
Okay. And okay, Byron has a question. Byron, please unmute your mic.
Okay, just to let people know that 1991 it was Sonamaker, 2016 it was Van Winkle. They were liked by this county board. I mean, they're politically liked. I've been following county government since 2018, like going to meetings and that. So what is it with Peoria County and their auditor? It just seems, I think Bill described it perfectly when he says it becomes all-consuming, and that's the way I'm seeing it. It's all-consuming. And then another question I would have, or maybe, is how can the county administrator just arbitrarily come in and say, fine, we're going to take away these legal employees. I mean, legal duties. We're just going to take them away.
I would say legally he couldn't do that, but I'll probably defer to Justin for a legal opinion about that.
They can't. That's my opinion. They can't do that. I mean, your question is sort of rhetorical, I think. You're saying, how can they do that? And the answer is, we say they can't. I think the court's going to agree with us.
And the law says they can't.
Yeah, that's the law. I mean, that's Roland Burris, the Attorney General. This isn't based upon the authority that we've seen. This is not a gray area. This isn't something most counties would be arguing, that other counties are arguing about. So, if they want to get rid of the office, they have to do it through a referendum. They tried, they couldn't, they're trying it again. But they can't just assign all the duties to someone else, eliminate all the employees, eliminate the budget, and say, yeah, we're complying with Illinois law. They're not, I don't think.
Correct. And, and that is, that's probably the reason for this Hail Mary of a referendum. The Hail Mary is to hey, let's throw this at the voters one more time. Let's word it in a different way. and let's see if they give us the answer we want. So we can
but it's also, you made the point, it's a different referendum. I mean, the old referendum was get rid of the office to replace them with a 5-year position that'll be semi, independent. It did create a different position. This is just eliminating it entirely. Just get rid of it.
Well, let me tell you guys a little story about Winnebago County. Maybe 5-6 years ago, our county board chairman at the time was mad at the chief judge. And the chief judge runs the probation department, and probation got a grant. And the county board chairman decided he really didn't need the grant. So he got the county board to go along with not giving the chief judge the money. The chief judge sued our county, the county board, and guess who won? I know you know who won. It was the chief judge. Because he said, the money belongs to me. And I think Justin has said it perfectly. I think you're on really good ground there with you have to be adequately funded. And I think a judge is probably going to agree with that at some point.
Correct.
So.
And so, so that's the premise of the lawsuit. And that's, and the way I operate what's the best for the people. Like I am solely operating on what the people want. And in 2018, the people elected to keep this office. And so I've been fighting ever since to get this office properly funded so we can properly carry out our duties. And the battles aren't over once the office gets restored with all its duties. We want officials to gain access to their office to conduct the audits. And that has been trouble in the past in the auditor's office as well. But again, we have our website that we have control over. So if we say, hey, we try to audit the state's attorney's office and she wouldn't let us in and she wouldn't give us access, then we can report that to the people. But we definitely can do that. And it's been a lot of things that we have to work to kind of overcome. And it begs the difference, like what are we really trying to hide here? Why is Peoria County fighting so hard to eliminate an office that in 2021, our 2021 budget was 0.02% of the general fund. So like Bill said, his budget is a drop in the bucket. Ours was a drip drop. So it really isn't costing the taxpayers money, a lot of money to have this office. It's less than $1 a year for most people to operate, for them to operate this office. But it will cost the taxpayers a lot of money if we eliminate the internal controls function in the office of the auditor, because it opens the door to opportunity, an opportunity that we don't really even want to see what it can mean for Peoria County. It's a disturbing thought, thinking back to what happened in Dixon, Illinois, roads not being completed and infrastructure not being addressed and things like that because someone was siphoning money into a different account. We really, really just don't want to have that happen. So I believe we have answered all questions, and it's 7:30. We have been on this for 1 hour and 30 minutes. I appreciate all your time. And if you guys do have further questions or inquiries or anything, my office, you can call me, you can email me. We'll try, let me go back to the dates. Justin said the next court hearing is September
26th at 2:00.
September 26th at 2:00. We will have I will come back on here to have another town hall with you guys on September 24th at September 14th at 6:00. The county board meeting is tomorrow at 6 p.m., August 11th on the 4th floor. Public comments are welcome. Just complete a comment card at the beginning of the meeting. And I thank you all for your time. And again, like, if you have any more questions, please shoot me an email. And if I can't answer it, I'll get someone to give the answer. Like, if it's a legal question, I'll ask Justin for his input. So thank you all so much. Any more comments, Justin or Bill?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, I'm
well,
good.
thank you all
Bye,
so
all.
much.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.